Okay, so what happens when you put two therapists in the same room? Yeah, because we are getting ready to find that out right now. I want to introduce you guys to my dear friend and a colleague in a mental health community. She's a psychologist, she's a mom, she's a family person, Dr. Lillian Gibson. So thank you so much for joining me today.
You're more than welcome, Dr. Roz.
Yeah, so I'm excited because we just started our community called Black Love Elevated. And we are excited to not only elevate people in terms of the way that they love, but to connect people by loving each other. And today I want to really talk about how powerful our stories are and as it relates to really connecting with people. But before we get into that, um, love for everybody to understand why you got into therapy in the first place. Because I know people always ask that question.
They do, and I think it's an excellent question. So thank you for asking. I can tell the story again and again and again. I felt like growing up, I always wanted to help, but I didn't exactly know how. I
Mhm.
found myself wanting to be a teacher because obviously they are community workers in a great sense.
Yes.
I found myself wanting to be a pharmacist and then found myself in vocational rehabilitation, which is how we actually met years
Mm-hmm.
and years
But I
ago.
actually didn't know you wanted to be a pharmacist. I had no
Yes,
idea.
that's
You were never
new.
really going to medicine.
Yeah, so that's totally new. You find that about me like 20 something years later. So, yes, that is true. And on
Mm-hmm.
that route of being in vocational rehab, helping individuals who are really trying to overcome barriers and get back into the workforce,
Hmm.
I noticed that a number of my clients would be very tearful, very overwhelmed, and maybe even doubtful, excuse me, about if they could
Hmm.
actually make that transition. And
Yeah,
so along
yeah.
the way, I would read different psychological reports and really understand different components of a person from that experience. And so that
Hmm.
led me to go into clinical psychology to really be able to understand how assessments play a huge role in people's lives and can be a
Mm.
reflection of things that people don't often say. And
Yeah,
so, another part of that included therapy, really
yeah.
finding how do you navigate difficult spaces to help empower folks to really regain their
Hmm.
lives. So,
Mm.
long story shortened, as it relates to the pharmacy component, after biology and honors chemistry at Southern University, I was like, get me out of here. And so I
Yes.
pivoted. Yeah.
Yeah, good pivot, good choice. Do you have any regrets about going into clinical psychology?
None, none. If I could do it over
None.
again, I will, or
Yeah.
would. I often encourage others who are thinking about counseling or therapy,
Mhm.
go for it. And then if others are thinking about, hey, I'm looking for a change in my career, what
Yeah.
about counseling? And I'm always a cheerleader for it because it's
Yeah.
amazing.
It is. It is. I love what we do, and you and I talk about this all the time.
Yes.
I know for me, I just wanted to share real quick that
Yeah.
my story started when I was 16, and I always knew I wanted to be a therapist. But speaking of the pharmacy route, I went kind of the roundabout way too. So I deviated and went into more of an instructional type of field,
Yes.
and I was a substitute teacher, and then I feel like God brought me back to this field. So I'm really
Hmm.
excited to be in this space.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
So,
story, I want to
mhm,
kind of go back because there was another part that I was thinking that I didn't have a chance to say. And
yeah.
like you were talking about too, like we change and we shift and we have these experiences that really
Mhm,
plant us in places. So, with that being said,
mhm,
um, navigating life and life happens and seeing my
yeah.
mom and seeing people in the community and
Mhm,
church, oftentimes mental health was something that you really didn't talk about, and so
yeah.
there was this huge stigma associated with telling stuff outside of the house and telling your business to the
Mhm.
stranger. And so being able
That's
to,
still there. That's
yeah,
still there.
it's still there.
Mhm,
Even though I feel like we have had significant improvements over time in terms of
mhm.
people being pro self care, work life balance, but there was
Yeah.
another huge motivator to be able to help decrease stigma and see that there
Mhm.
are different ways and approaches to be able to manage life challenges and circumstances. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
that's it. I can talk about it all day. So that's answering your
We can,
question.
yeah, we can look, we can beat a dead horse on why we got into this and why we love what we do. But let's
Absolutely.
keep going. You know,
Yeah.
stories are really powerful. I love hearing people's just real, raw, honest stories.
Mhm.
Um, but it takes a level of vulnerability. And so for the people that are in our community, they either have taken our vulnerability challenge or they're getting ready to take the vulnerability
Good.
challenge. And I want to put this out there that Dr. Leal and I, even though we are really amazing friends now and colleagues, and we consult with each other all the time, there was have been some moments where vulnerability actually grew our friendship and really connected us in ways that we probably would not have been connected before. So, in
Mm.
all transparency, because we're talking about sharing stories, and we would love to hear your stories as well.
Mhm.
Let's talk about an ugly story. I want to talk about an ugly story real quick, and then we'll get into some prettier stories. Okay.
Okay.
So, do you remember when we met at Southern on the campus of Southern?
Mhm.
We were working together. Well, you were a grad student, and I was a grad assistant too at the time. And then we met at Jackson State. And y'all, I'm about to get into some real raw stuff, just because it's a little juicy. The Halloween party story.
Mhm.
This is about this, y'all. This is about vulnerability. So real talk, we were having this Halloween party. It was a Halloween house party. And so everybody at like that we knew at the time, and we were in college, grad school, they had gotten invited to this story. And I'm not gonna get into the details because I don't remember very like remember bits and pieces, and you know how you remember part of the story as well. But I want to say, and correct me if I'm wrong, that that was our first moment where we really had to exercise vulnerability with each other.
I would say yes in a very unique way because if you're going where I think you're going, are you going to talk about a little rift in our friendship and sisterhood?
Yes,
Yeah, I
yes,
would say yeah,
yes.
that was a moment of vulnerability for various reasons. Yes.
Ooh, okay. So I want to hear about those that right there.
Okay.
So for me, I want to share my part, then I want you to share that because a lot of times, and it's not just black women, but
Mhm.
it's people who are their friends but they're friends on a superficial level.
Right.
And sometimes it takes these risks, as you say, to get people to be more connected. And I
Mhm.
think we take full opportunity, full advantage of those kind of opportunities. So we had a little falling out one Halloween. I don't even remember the year.
Yeah.
And we stopped talking to each other. Do you remember how long we stopped talking? Or
I
is that
don't.
even?
I don't. But it
Yeah,
was
how
clear
long
that there was a
ago?
line in the sand and I wasn't
Yes.
kicking it with you. Don't call me. Vice versa. It's good. I'm good. So that was the
Yeah.
understanding.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I remember that I was really confused, and I'll say I guess clueless. Like, how do we fix this? What's going on? Like, I met you. I want to say 2 years prior, and I just didn't know how we were going to get past that hump, or if our friendship was actually over. So, what were
Yeah.
you thinking? What were you feeling
Bye. Bye, Felicia. I'm good. That's what I was thinking at the moment. Because again,
at
we're
the
talking
moment?
about vulnerability. And so
Yeah,
if we go back to what led to the rift, it was a misunderstanding in
yeah,
terms of expectations, who's going to do what.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Planning the party because Dr. Roz, you do the most. You go
I
full
do.
out. This is your personality.
Yeah.
You're kind of like the mama of the crew. Like you're gonna make sure things are good. If we're going somewhere, everybody got their seatbelts on. Like this is you.
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm. Mhm.
So that being said, there were some expectations at that moment that you probably had of me being able to kind of be there,
Mhm.
kind of decorate the place. We lived on two
Mhm.
different sides of
Mhm.
the, I would say, metroplex of Jackson of the
Yeah.
area.
Mhm.
So anyway, long
Mhm.
story short, we had did some pre-planning, did pre-preparation, and
Yeah.
so when I came to the party, because I went back to my apartment, came back to the house, and at the party, I felt the
Mhm.
vibe was off. Like
Mhm.
it was not this warm welcoming, "Hey, girl," blah 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 blah, and I kind of got
Yeah.
that from everybody who lived in the house that was helping with the party. And
Yeah.
so, in order to add to the vulnerability component, I am originally from
Mhm.
Shreveport, Louisiana. And not
Shreveport.
only is Shreveport, Louisiana, a huge place where you support, it's also a place where a lot, very similar to other communities, that respect and boundaries is huge. And
Yeah.
so
Mm.
when you walk into a place, you're supposed to speak and say hello. You really try to give people the
Mhm.
benefit of the doubt until you get one little
Mhm.
inkling that something is off, and then you just shut it down. The whole city, everything,
Now,
shut it down and keep
okay,
it
so I'm
down.
glad. Yes, I'm glad we're going here because I like you
Yeah.
giving the pre-story. So let me back up as well.
Okay.
So for me, I grew up in this small country town. We lived in the country part. We went to the county schools, and
Yeah.
my parents were educators.
Mhm.
And anytime there was a fight at school or if there was a conflict going on, my parents would always tell me to tell the teacher.
Yeah.
And I grew up, this is the difference. This is the kind of the clash of the therapist here. So I grew up really avoiding conflict and even remember the expectations that I might have put on you. But I know being a mama bear, I am like, let's do
Y
this and let's do this and all of that and taking over and all that.
yeah.
And I want to add to that in terms of my background versus your background.
Mhm.
I would have never addressed it with you. So I can definitely say in all
Yeah.
vulnerability
Mhm.
that my vulnerability had me in a place of not fear of you, but fear of conflict. So
Or
let's
fight.
all
Mhm.
kumbaya it out. But you, on the other hand, your vulnerability, or can we call it vulnerability? I don't know. Like your
Well, so I'm
go
gonna get to
ahead.
that, and this is
Yeah,
good because we're talking about vulnerability, perceptions, how do we get here? So,
yeah.
um, I come from a place and a culture that you don't get vulnerable. You do not allow yourself to be
Mm,
vulnerable. So as soon as I stepped
mhm.
up in a party in a place, the vibe was off. I felt like, it was a little bit of a cold shoulder because
Yeah.
those expectations were communicated. So even
Mhm.
though you had an intention to not be confrontational, there was this lack of warmth that's typically there among girlfriends slash sisters.
Yeah.
Uh,
And
that led
hey,
me to pull back.
uh-huh.
And not
Yeah.
only did I
Mhm.
pull back, I probably said a potty word or two, which led kind of
It
speeding
was
up the story.
potty words.
Huh?
I think, look, what I remember, it was some potty words, and it was some, I gotta get out of here. I'm about to beat your boo. Yo, look, I can't say it.
Right.
And I
So
was like,
I
I think,
left.
yeah. So
Yeah.
she left. She was about to whoop that tail, y'all. And because in my mind and in my
Hmm.
body, I am not picking up on the what the Shreveport vibes pick up on.
Right.
I am trying to give this calm, steady, nothing's wrong, it's
Right.
okay.
Right.
And so I am in a sense, that's not vulnerability either.
Right. Yeah. So back to, because we can, definitely dive deep with this. And so
Yeah,
moving
yeah,
forward after that, to me, the relationship was severed because there's nothing more to
yeah.
talk about. Uh,
Hmm.
and there's nothing more to talk about because if you are putting yourself in a space to acquire a friend, if you're putting
Yeah.
yourself in the space to be connected with somebody, there's some expectations that go along with that friendship dynamic. So there
Hmm.
were these expectations you had about the party, what to do, how to help, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
then it
That I
translates.
had not communicated
Exactly.
either.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Then led me to feel like the friendship was not what I thought it was, and it's a wrong vibe. So I need
Hmm.
to um, escape, remove myself, avoid.
Yeah. Hmm.
And I'm saying all of that to go back to the point of the vulnerability. Like
Yeah.
I have improved over time with letting my guard down. I
Absolutely.
have improved over
Yeah.
time with being able to not shit stuff down. I don't want to cuss,
Yeah. And
but I have
interpreting
improved.
people's intentions too at the same time.
Okay, that's a compliment. I mean, I
Yeah.
tried.
Give it to
So that
you.
is the
Yeah.
vulnerability piece of not letting people get into that space where it could be a
Mhm,
rift, a disappointment. So I have
mhm.
previously lived on the side of vulnerability did not exist in my space.
Yeah.
Now in this
Mhm.
space, I am open to vulnerable moments.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily want to go too far and kind of blow the spot up saying, "Oh, I embrace vulnerability."
And
Not
so,
really.
yeah,
I'm
because
open
it's
though. I'm
still,
open.
yeah, think we're both way more open than what we used to be.
Yeah.
And so I want to kind of let's skip ahead. So there's this moment where our friendship is just dead.
Yes.
You're thinking it's dead. I'm thinking, how do we fix this? How do we but I'm not
Right.
saying anything. And
Yeah.
so one day, um, look, as if you well, maybe you don't know what happened from my perspective. So one day I knew where you were going to be. And
Mhm.
y'all think this is about to get crazy. I knew where she was going to be. I knew where her class was. I knew where her car was parked. All
Right.
right. In comes the dun da
Stalker.
da da. Let's slash tires. That's what. Hey, look.
Stalker. Mhm.
Right. That's what a person who was not interested in fixing anything might have done. Like,
Right.
since she's not talking to me, let's make things worse. And
Right.
why people go there, especially if they have a desire to repair things, but they're so hurt that they
Yeah.
end up lashing out on people. But
Yeah.
anyway, another story for another day. So anyway, I go up to her car and I stick something in her was windshield wiper.
Yes, friend.
It was a letter. Back in the day, your girl was so good at just writing letters because, again, I come from a family where we don't argue with each other. If there's something wrong, I really want to make it right. I don't know how to say it to you because I don't want you to take it the wrong way. So I'm going to put it in a letter. And that was my moment of being vulnerable.
Yeah.
I don't even know if you remember what the letter was about, but just share a little bit about your experience. Like, you're done, and then you get this little note in your windshield.
Okay, so I keep it real and 100 all the time. I was like, why is this girl putting this note on my car? Like, did I not make it clear that I don't mess with you, you don't mess with me? Like, what is the deal?
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
also have to say too, like we have been friends for so long. This was like way before text messaging. Like this
Absolutely.
definitely
Yeah.
would not be something that a person would do for an email because emails were more formal.
Yeah.
So at
Mhm.
the time, communication was really in person. You had this level of
Mhm.
high engagement. So for people who are thinking it's like 2 or 8 years ago, that's like almost like
Yeah.
20
So
years
long
ago,
ago.
right?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
yeah, so
The
it was
letter writing was still kind of cute.
okay, because we had the 4-page letter by Aaliyah. What did a 4-page letter?
Yes. What?
Okay,
20? No, 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 not 2021, 2001, because
look
that's
at
when she
you.
passed away. But yeah, that was
Yeah,
the era of that. But
the
you
era
writing them
of letters.
to your man,
Yes,
not to your friend. But yes,
yes,
I
yeah,
get
but
the whole
still,
letter
it
thing.
was the communication. You still could probably get something out of the mail, which is the whole point of what I'm saying. But anyway, so
Yeah.
I was like, what
Yeah.
is this girl doing? Why is she contacting me? Like it's already understood. And
Mhm.
so I just remember getting the letter, but also taking a moment, not in that moment because I was still probably a little upset
Yeah.
because boundaries had been crossed, in my
Mhm.
humble opinion, and relationship not under as it relates to a friendship and sisterhood. And so,
Mhm.
over time, I just found that it was okay to re-engage and just have like a little sit down talk, a little powwow. So at that time too, we had our
Yeah.
favorite Mexican restaurant that we will often go to, just straight
Yeah.
college life and kicking it and having fun. And so I think
Mhm.
we probably ended up sitting down over a meal and drinks and just talking about it and moving forward from that. And I think we could
Yeah.
probably say we never really had a true falling out since then because it was,
Mhm.
just a pure understanding of what the intention was as well as the expectation.
Yeah. And I think, when people understand what's most important,
Yeah.
which to me, I really value preserving the friendships that I have because my circle is very small.
Yes.
And vulnerability, it takes me a long time to really warm up to someone. And so the people that I let into
Mhm.
my space, you here for life, we're gonna
Right.
kill each other before we kill the friendship.
Right.
And
Mhm.
so, yeah, and so we did. We allowed ourselves to open ourselves up to each other.
Yes.
And even though we still have moments where we are in disagreement,
Mhm.
never has it ever been that again because we
No.
understand like what's really important to us. So
Yeah.
I want you guys to let us know in the comments, have you ever fallen out with a friend? and you really wanted to repair it, but vulnerability and that guardedness or that Shreveportedness would not allow you to do it. And if so, like, what's going on now? And what's the problem with you jumping back in there and sending a 4-page letter or sending a nice text message? I was talking with
Wait,
a
can I add
client.
something to
Yeah,
that?
please. Yes, yes, yes.
So, as they are noting in the comment section about this
Yes.
incident, we got to rip one time for who was wrong. Make sure you add in who was really wrong. And then
Yeah.
also have that a part of the comments because, just to have things balanced
Yeah.
out. Okay.
Yes, yes, yes. And here's what I want to say as we're protecting friendship. I
Yes.
believe that we both were wrong. We both play, and I think people can really fix relationships.
No, ma'am, we were both not wrong. 20 years later. No.
Yes, 20 years later, y'all, we have to accept our role in it, whether it
It's gonna
was
have to
the
be another segment,
Shreveport.
sis. It's gonna have to be another
That's gonna be
segment.
another
Keep going
segment
on.
for
This
another
is
day.
another segment. No.
Y'all, listen, y'all, we gonna be like Ethel and Louise. It's Ethel and Louise. We still gonna be talking about this, y'all, till the day we take it to the grave. That's what's gonna happen. But anyway,
And it's Velma and Louise, friend. It's them.
so
But go
I
ahead.
told
I knew what you
y'all.
were talking about, though. Go ahead. I got you.
Yes. So I asked y'all in the beginning, I said, what happens when you bring two therapists together? This is exactly what I'm talking about.
Yes.
So I hope you guys enjoyed this moment of vulnerability with Dr. Lil and I. I want to thank you so much for sharing with our audience. And we definitely want you to come back so that you can impart some of your wisdom into us as we continue our journey towards love,
Yes.
towards elevating love, and just being more open to receive love. So, why don't you let everybody know where you typically hang out and how they can stay connected to you?
Yeah, so I live in a space where vulnerability is required. So Gloss Plan is where you can find me on Instagram and Facebook. It's GLOSPLAN. So I'm there posting and engaging. So thanks so much for having me. And I look forward to maybe coming back and telling the other side of how vulnerability helped me. So I'm just going to put that out there too.
Yes, 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 yes. Well, that's we're gonna have to make that a part two.
Okay.
So yeah, y'all definitely let us know in the comments if you have any particular questions for us as it relates to your own issues with vulnerability and being able to be transparent with your friends, your lovers, and your family members. And we'll see you next time. Have a wonderful week. Bye, guys.